Howdy crafty friends, it's Sherry. I'm back in the craft camper and I'm excited to share with you this tutorial on how to make a grumpy Christmas elf. Yeah, I know we know what it's called, but because of trademark, I'm just going to call it a grumpy Christmas elf. I think it's adorable and I'm excited to share with you how to do it. So here you're going to need your 4 different colors of yarn. I'm just using Big Twist. I have red, white, I think it's called slime, that you know, green color, and brown. You're also going to need some scissors, a couple needles. Again, I really like the tapestry needle, the bent one, the bigger bent one, or darning needle, whatever you call it. And then I use a couple of these plastic needles, the longer one for tucking tails and the shorter one. And I use these for a few things, so it's good to have those on hand, and maybe some stitch markers if you have them. Some plastic eyes you'll need. Let's see, the size of these, I think they're just about close to 1 millimeter in size. I just have that kit and it comes with the backs, so you can get whatever you want to use, and then the polyfill, and I like the ultra plush, if I can say it. You're going to need a 22 pin machine. I really prefer the Addi. We're going to just jump right in here with our green color, and I'm going to go over the cast on. You're going to wrap it around, go behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front, in front, behind, in front, behind. I got out of whack there a little bit. But you want to go ahead and do that all the way around, and your last pin you should be behind before you put it into your yarn keeper. On this Addi 22, at least for mine, I have to cast on really loose. Those first 3 rows, I don't even really put any tension on it. And then I will go ahead and put a little bit more tension in my hand and then continue to crank it out. So for the body piece here, we're going to need... You need 80 rows for the body. So we are going to go ahead and just crank out the 80 rows. So join me right back here when you are all done with the 80, and we'll do the cast off. Okay, we are all done with the 80. You're going to wrap your yarn around. That's what I do. Just one wrap around the machine, give it a snip, and then get your needle, whatever needle you prefer. I really like that metal bent needle, the larger one. That's my favorite. That's the one I use all the time. You just have to be careful since the machines have plastic you know, housings, just to not like hurt it. But I hold the yarn up, and then little tip here for anybody who's new, this is a great one. Just release 1 stitch at a time as you go around, and you can see there you can close your feet or 2 on the Addi. It's kind of important that you do that. But anyways, just go release 1 stitch at a time instead of releasing all of it. Less chance that you're going to drop any stitches in your cast off when you do that. So there we go. We have our 80 rows for the body. And you want to give it a really good stretch when you're all done with the cast on. So now we're going to move on to the legs, the little legs here. And for these, it's 22 rows. So you want to reset your machine. I do, just so for your information, I do count the cast on row. I know that's kind of a no-no, but it's just easier for me. You can do whatever you want. If you have an extra row in most things, it's not going to matter. But I really like to count the cast off rows. So here's one of the legs we got. Got it all done. You want to give it a good stretch. And then you're going to cinch both ends on this one. And I'll go through exactly how to put it all together once we get all the parts made. Again, this is how I usually make any of the stuffed animals that I make. I go ahead and I crank out all the parts first before I start on any construction or putting anything together. But there's one of the legs, and you're gonna go ahead and make another one. So now we're gonna move on to the arm, and then the cuff part is actually a separate part. But we'll do the arm first, and I'll give you the counts on this. It is 17 rows total for the arm, and you're going to want to do 7 rows for the hand part. So 7 rows of the green, and then you're going to want to switch colors. And when you do this here, you give yourself just enough of a tail that you can tie it, you know, a little extra. I always like to give myself a little extra. You're going to lay that color in And then you're going to grab your red and you're going to lay that in right beside it. So right beside it, I hold on and close your yarn keeper there. And let me go a little closer here, but you're going to lay it in right beside it, close your yarn keeper. You're going to hang on to your yarn that's feeding in, and then you're going to go in and you're going to grab those two tails, hang on to those pretty snugly, all three of those, and then just go ahead and crank a couple rows. It's going to be tight, and then go ahead and you can go ahead and crank on. Now the thing is, when I do any color changes, I do not knot it on the machine. I only half tie it. Just like the beginning of tying your shoes, that's all I do. Just half tie, put your yarn tails down, and then go ahead and crank on. And then at the end, after we stretch it and set the stitches, after we've stretched it, then that's when I tie it. And I've got a couple tips here for that. For once you stretch it, so go ahead and give it a good stretch, stretchy, stretchy, stretchy poo, stretchy, stretchy, stretchy poo. Give it a good stretch, stretch, stretch. Yeah, that's good. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Okay, so now you're going to get your tails here. And you can see there's slack. See that slack right there? You want to get rid of that. That's one of the reasons why I don't tie it on the machine, because once you set your stitches, you're going to have slack. So I kind of just make sure you give it a good pull, get your slack out of there. You're going to snug that up. You don't want to do it too tight because it will cinch up. You just want to do it so it's snug. You can kind of look at how it is there, and it looks great. So your first knot, you just want to snug it up. Don't do it too tight, just a snug knot, just snug. And the second one I do a little tighter. You could do a third, but I generally only do two, unless I feel it needs a third. I could have left myself just a little bit more tail there too, by the way. I cut it a little short. Okay, so then now you're going to cinch up the ends. So give a cinchy on the green end and a cinchy on the red end, and you need to just kind of play with it a little bit so you can get it cinched up. And you can kind of see here what we're going to do. We're going to roll that into a little cigar type tubey thing. Going to turn it into an arm. Okay, now we're going to make the cuff. The cuff is just 5 rows. 5 rows, that's it. Do it the same way that you did the body part. We don't have any other color. You're gonna crank it out, cast it off. And now I have some tips on this because 5 rows is not very much. So you can see it's hard to even see where my cinch lines are. You just have to manipulate it. And how I do this is I kind of pull on, separate those lines till I can see what's the top cinch line, what's the bottom cinch line. And there I've got, the top, bottom, whatever you want to call it. And I pull on one of them. I keep manipulating the piece so it's not twisted. Because this is so small, it will twist very easy. And then you have a mess and it's hard to figure it out. So just kind of go slow. Keep kind of pulling it apart and cinching it up and pulling it apart and cinching it up. And you'll get it to where it's almost like, I don't know, what's the shape? I don't want to say angel wings, but it's kind of, see how it kind of looks like, there, I guess kind of like a set of wings, kind of like that. But then I can kind of set the stitches once I have that one side cinched, and then I can go ahead and cinch the other side up, being able to hold on to, the actual stitched part or the knitted part there. So I kind of stick my finger underneath it, see that? And I kind of pull it out. So you're kind of poofing it out and stretching it, poofing it out and stretching it, poof and stretch, poof and stretch. And you're just going to do that all the way around. And then you don't want to cinch it all the way close because we're going to have to put it actually on the hand. And then we want to cinch it on the wrist part of the hand. So you can kind of see how that's going to go. See? So now you need to do that. Make yourself another arm. Make yourself another little cuff. And then we're going to move on now to the sweater. We're going to use our red and our white. We're going to start out. The sweater actually has, how many rows does the sweater have? It has 22 total rows. And you're going to do 5 of that first white one. Lay in your red. And then you are going to do 12 red, and then 5 white again. So I think that's how I did it. Yes, because you've got your cuff on the top, cuff on the bottom. Yes. So we go 5 white, 12 red, 5 white. And again, couple little tips. I'll talk about the color changes here. You really kind of want to watch your tails too when you're changing these out. Like when I hold the 3 tails, when I change the color, just be careful to make sure you have the proper tails, because I've grabbed the wrong ones before and made a mess of my piece. So that does happen. So we're going to go until we have that, get that. We're doing 5, then 12. And again, see here, I'm just tying, just doing a half tie. And I know it's when you only have a few, it's kind of hard to see it. So just be mindful of that. So you drop in your red, we're going to go with the white. And again, like I was talking about, when the more tails or color changes you do, you just got to make sure you're grabbing the right thing. So do your yarn. Yeah, see right there? I got a little tangled up. Make sure you're grabbing the right tails when you do that. And then we'll go ahead and again tie off all of those knots after I get it off the machine and I've set all of those stitches. So, and you do end up having a tighter cast on one side and a little bit of a looser cast on the, or what do I want to say? Cast on, cast off on the other side. You can see that loose cast on my right hand there, and it's tighter on my left. What we're going to do is we're going to use the tighter part up by the head. It'll just look a little nicer. So here we're going to go ahead and get the slack out and, you know, make sure that our color change there looks good and it's an even seam. Now, something I did here, guys, again, that I don't want you to do, and I will explain this why later. Watch what I do here. I cut it way too short. Give yourself a little bit more tail than that, and I will tell you the reason why. I'll tell you already. We're going to want to tuck those later, and if they're too short, they're hard to control. You want them not too long, but you want them a little longer than what I cut there. So just make yourself a note. Cut your tails just a little bit longer than I did. Don't do what I did. Give yourself some longer tails. Okay, so this is the sweater, guys. You can see how we're going to do that. We're going to, oh, something I didn't say in the beginning. You want a palm maker if you want to do the palm like that. And I use the Yarnology, the little smallest palm maker, to make that little white palm on the top of the hat. So now we're going to do the hat. That's a total of 50 rows. And it's 15 of, what are we starting with there? Red. We're starting with red. So we have 15 red, 20 white, 15 red. And this is made just like a regular hat, guys. So it's just a mini version of the regular hat that you would make for an adult size. So you could do this exact same hat, obviously with different counts, on a bigger machine and make it for an adult. This would actually be really cute for like an ornament or something too. So if you're kind of wondering what kinds of things you could do for Christmas, this little hat ends up being so stinking cute, and you can turn it into an ornament for a Christmas present. But actually, I think if you you can actually make preemie hats on the 22 as well, guys. So that would be kind of fun. So once you get it off the machine, you want to give it a stretchy, and you can see the difference in color. See how they're kind of jogged like pretty bad. They look pretty bad. We want to go ahead and tighten those up again and knot them up. Get your slack out of there. See, lots of slack. Lots of slack. Get rid of the slack. So we're just going to tighten that up and give it a knot. And see, I kind of fiddle with it until it looks good. So just kind of take your time with this, and you'll get it. And even if it's a little off, it's not going to matter. It matters more with stripes than it does with just color variations. Even if it was a little jog like that, it would be totally fine. Totally fine. So once you get that done, now when I make my hats, this is exactly how I do it. I bring the center through. It's a double, a double hat, double beanie kind of thing. I try to always get my tails lined up, so then all of my knit stitches are kind of lined up. The other thing is, if you'll notice, I'm lining up my red to my red just so those seams are kind of, together. And then those tails, I tuck the white to the white and like pull the red up to the red. And that's kind of why you want a longer tail, a little bit longer, so you can pull it into the right place. And when you're cinching, just kind of take your time with that. The yarn here, the Big Twist Value, it cinches pretty well, actually. And I've never had the Big Twist Value snap on me when I'm tying up a hat. I have had other brands snap on me. I love this yarn snap on me before, and a couple Lion brands like the Mandala yarn has snapped on me before. So, because I get a little heavy-handed sometimes when I'm tying, so just be careful when you do this. I just knot it off. So once you cinch both of them up, just go ahead and knot it off. I do a double knot. And then I have way too much yarn here. So trim off some of that extra tail. We're going to use, I don't know if I end up using some of that for other things. Maybe not in this project, but yeah, maybe not in this project. Never mind. Okay, so now we're going to take the needle and we're going to go through the center. And this is, again, how I do hats. Exactly the same way. I bring my tails through to the center, tie it a couple more times. So a couple more knots. One. and a twosie. And then I'm going to tuck my tails. You wouldn't absolutely have to tuck your tails, guys, for this little guy. I did not stitch the hat on at the end, as you'll see, but you totally could do that if you wanted it not popping off of his head. So if you did that, you wouldn't really have to tuck your tails. But yeah, if you're going to have the hat removable because it's fun, you can tuck your tails. But I separate the two pieces. So since it's a double hat, I separate the two pieces because you don't want that tail like going into the front of the hat. So separate them out, get it sandwiched in between the two layers, and then trim it off there. And then looky loo, we have a Christmas hat for you. So cute, so stinking cute. So there we go. Got our body, and again, that was 80 rows. We have our hat, and that was 50 rows. We have our sweater, that was 22, and our legs that are 22, and our arms that are 17, and the cuffs that are 5. So now let's go ahead and start the construction. So for the body piece, we're going to do the same thing like we did with the hat. You're going to take one end, pull it into the other end, and then again, try to get your tails together. I just think it lays better. You don't have twisted, you know, pieces. If you do it that way, your knitting all kind of lays together nice and neat and tidy. And then here, you're going to want to cinch it up. If you've watched me at all, you need to be careful because you end up getting a pucker. That happens. So you just kind of want to make sure you got, you know, tuck the puck, guys. Tuck the puck. Yep. And then go ahead and roll it in. Sometimes if you put your finger in the center and then cinch up around it. I know with the hats it makes it easier if you do that. With these smaller ones it's a little more difficult to do that. But you just want to make sure you get a nice clean cinch. And make sure you don't have any pucker on your cinching. So go ahead and do that, and then you're going, just like we did on the hat, you're going to knot your first knot. Just be careful not to snap your yarn because it can happen, and that would be so sad. You can still salvage it though. So go ahead and do that. I try to like kind of line it up on the inside too and smooth it out. But then you want to go ahead and tuck your tails just like we did on the hat. Use your needle. You could use a straight needle for this too. You wouldn't have to use the bent one. I just really like the bent one. It's like my go-to. I use it all the time. I have a littler one and this bigger one that I use. And I think sometimes when you cinch it with this bigger one, if you do it tight, I think I had some issue here too getting it through. You have to give it a little wiggle because I cinched it so well I can't get my needle through. But I just feel to the underneath and try to get through the center hole. You don't absolutely have to, but I prefer to do it that way. And then I go ahead and give it a couple more knots. Make sure I get my tails through there. Sometimes when you have those really long tails, you got to watch what you're doing there. You'll tie it in. I give it a couple more knots on the inside. Then go ahead and trim it. You don't have to tuck your tails. And we're going to use that really long piece or one of your really long pieces for the next step. So go ahead and save. If you have some really long cinched end pieces, save those for what we're moving to on the next step. After we figure out our eyes. So now for the eyes, I did this one that I'm doing in the tutorial just slightly different because I wanted to see how it turned out. I wanted to make them, I did the same count down. So you're going to start at the top, and I use my needle to do this, and I count in the whole of the stitch. So you're going to want to go down 12 rows from the top, or somewhere around there is where I do it. And you can actually, you know, use your needle to mark it. You could use a stitch marker. You could use one of your plastic needles, whatever you want to do, just to kind of get an eyeball of where you want it. And then for these, I just kind of, you know, figured out the spacing. But now remember that once you put your eyes in, your safety eyes, now you could stitch some eyes too. I suppose you could do that. I've done that on a couple stuffed animals I've done. But I do like these just black round safety eyes, but you could use whatever eyes you want to use in whatever size. You can make them a little, have bigger eyes or some smaller, beadier eyes. But right here, what I did is on this one, I did it just a little bit farther apart. But what I was going to say is remember that once you stuff it, it's going to spread those eyes apart even further. And you'll see once I get this one stuffed and we compare it to the first one, the difference in how the eyes looked and the difference in how it makes the whole stuffed animal look. So then you want to put your backs on. Now, I've just ordered these safety eyes on Amazon, and I know I've had some people say to me, like, or have issue with backs not, like, being secure, but I've not had any issue with these. Now, just be mindful that with safety eyes, they're not for children under 3, so just something to consider. So anyways, we got the eyes on now, and we did them again. That was 12 rows down from the top. Now we're going to put the cinch line in. And the cinch line, where I put that at was at number 22. So, number 22, row 22. So I went again from the top and I went down to 22. I would say somewhere around 22. Now everybody's going to stitch up a little differently. Your knitting is even, if we don't use the same yarn, it's not going to stitch up exactly the same. I might hold my tension a little tighter than you may hold your tension. So 22 might, be a little farther down than it is for me. But it's just, if you look at it, it's not in the middle, but it's close. See? It's not in the middle. You got it. We did 80 rows total on the tube. And then if you're splitting that at half, it's 40. So it's not in the middle. It's actually, if I do 40 split in half, it's a little more than, half at 22. So that, if that gives you an idea. But what you're going to do is you're going to go but you're going to go pick up 2 stitches, skip 2 stitches, pick up 2 stitches. You can see I'm doing it there. And this doesn't have to be exact because you're gonna cinch it around a couple times, but I usually go 2 stitches, and you just want to do the top layer. You don't want to go into the bottom layer as well. And then one other thing is, you can see what I'm doing right there. I still had 1 stitch left before the last, where my tail had come out before. Make sure that you're make sure that you're threading through that last 2 stitches that's close. Then you're not skipping one, because then when you tie it and you knot it, it's going to cinch a lot better. Okay, so we have that cinch line in. Now we're going to cut another piece for the bottom, because we need to make a cinch line for the bottom of this grouchy Christmas elf, so that we can cinch up his body. So again, just like we did around the neck, you're going to pick up 2 little bars. So pick up 2 bars, make sure you have enough tail to tie it at the end, but you can also adjust that after you're done. Skip 2 bars, pick up 2 bars. And there's other ways to do this cinch line. I've seen other people do it other ways. This is just the way that I have been, doing it, and it seems to work fairly well for me. So, again, you want to work all the way around. I try to stay in the same row if I can, all the way around, row of stitches. But sometimes you might have one that goes up or goes down. It's not honestly going to make a bit of difference. It's going to be the bottom of the stuffed animal. So, so once you get that done, I usually try to even up my tails too. You can see there. Try to even them up. Now we're going to stuff this little dude. So, again, I use that Ultra Plush polyfill. You can use whatever polyfill you like. I try to loft it a little bit. I don't know why I do this. I think this is how you're supposed to do it. I am certainly no expert. I think my mom showed me how to do this, and that's what she did, and I just do what she did. So, so you don't want to, if you bunch it up too much and you don't have it pulled apart, it's going to get real lumpy. And you'll realize too, as you're stuffing it, if you push and push and push and push and push, you're going to end up with lumps. So I just kind of softly push it. And when I'm pushing, I actually push in the middle instead of on the outsides. And like, I put my fingers in the middle and kind of spread them to the outsides. So I'm always filling into the middle. Hopefully that makes sense. And you just kind of adjust it as you go. There's no hard or fast rule to this. It's going to be what you like. You can kind of see how far apart those eyes are. When we put those eyes on, they were way closer together. And then when you stuff it, the more you stuff it, the farther those are going to spread apart. So, so be mindful of that when you put your eyes on. So you might, you'll see, I kind of liked the way I set the eyes on the first one a little bit more. They were, I think, 2 more rows closer together, maybe. So once I get it shaped into I don't know, like a pill or a pickle shape, then you're going to want to see if it's what you like. So you can use your cinch line and kind of just see it. Like right there, I'm just kind of, cinching it up, seeing if I feel like it's stuffed enough or maybe a little too much. I stuffed this guy stuffed him pretty full. I'm thinking that'll work. But you can just kind of squeeze it and adjust your stuffing, see how it works, give it some squishy, squishy. I don't know. What's the terminology? I have no idea. We're just going to say we're squishing it. So, and you can see the stuffings coming out too. That's no big deal. Don't worry about it. But I'm kind of liking, I think, how stuffed the head is. I kind of like it. So you're going to cinch it up, and I flip him over. As you can see, I wrap it around, and then I'm going to tie it there, tie it down, and then I wrap it around again. I think I do. Yep. And tie it down. And you can knot it then too. And you can do that a couple times. And then now we're going to work on finishing the bottom. So all that stuffing is coming out. You can adjust it however you want. And you can make them like a little more, you know, a little more poochy belly, a little, however you want to do it. You can have less stuffing in it, whatever you like the look of. And just adjust it as you go, you know. It's your stuffed animal. And your, you know, like grumpy Christmas elf. So you can figure out how you like him and stuff him accordingly. It's kind of surprising though, every time I do a stuffed animal, how much stuffing these little things actually take though. It's kind of a lot. So anyways, once you get that done, when I go to tie it off, you can see this is what I do. I use my legs to hold it because I just think it's the easiest. So I'm going to cinch it up. Again, be careful not to snap your yarn. I've done it doing this before. So just be careful. And you could actually right here, I don't think I do that, but you can actually finish this, knot it up, and get rid of your tails and get them out of the way. I have a tendency to leave my tails to the very end, which I probably shouldn't do because I hate tucking tails, but you could already go ahead and tuck those tails because there's no reason to leave that yarn there, except for I'm going to cinch that hole up a little bit more at the end. Okay, so we're going to move on to the legs now. So you can see I'm going to roll them into a little cigar tube shape. They're not just folded in half, they're rolled. So I like roll in one end and then roll around the next end. Now these aren't too long. If they're longer, I usually like to use stitch markers to mark my rows, because when we're going to use the mattress stitch for this. You want to stay in the same row that you're using on the bottom and then the same row that you're using on the top, just so you get a smooth, even seam. So you could use stitch markers to mark those. I just kind of like here, I'm just going to turn it. See how it's twisted though? If you don't pay attention, you'll end up not being in the same row, and you want to stay in the same row. And I'm going to tell you, this is kind of a wee bit of a guessing game for me on how tight I want to make it. I just kind of, you know, what feels right, that's what I go with. So you can kind of see what I'm doing there in terms of there's maybe 2 rows in between where I am doing the mattress stitch. So you're going to pick up 2 rows, like in the bottom. I started with the bottom, pick up two little rows, and it's in between the stitch. See that? 2 rows bottom, 2 rows top. I call it, okay guys, I call it the crotch of the stitch. I know that's not a very good term, but you want those 2 little prongs in the crotch of the stitch. That's what I call it. I'm sorry. Hopefully that's not offensive. But you can see I'm always going with my needle in the same direction. You want to go in the same direction, same direction. And then you don't want to do the whole thing without cinching it. You want about halfway through, you want to cinch it. If you do the whole thing and then something kind of snags, sometimes you can't get that seam tight. So I usually do a little bit and then tighten it up and then go on. And then it's sometimes hard to see where you're at. So you can see what I did was I kind of pulled it apart again to see where my yarn is coming out of, so I know which rows to do. So you're going to do it all the way down to the end. And again, you're going to cinch that close, this mattress stitch. It's like magic. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You pull it and it's like magic. It just like seams it all together. So, and you don't want to do it too hard or it'll curl your toe. And you don't want a curled toe. We're going to actually cinch the toe at the end. So we don't want it too curled. We want it just straight. And you can straighten it out. Just pull it apart. If it starts to cinch up, just pull it apart. Then I take my tails and I do just a loose knot, you know, just a snug knot. And then I do a tighter knot. And then what I'm going to do is take one of those tails and hide it. So I'm going to tuck, you know, get rid of the tail, put it in, tuck it, and trim it. And then I'm going to keep one tail long so that we can attach it to the body. I don't need both of them for attaching, only one. So I'm actually going to tuck my tail here. and hide it and get rid of it, which is surprising because I usually wait till the very end to do all of that. But yeah, you just want to, get it in the middle, pull it through, trim it off, and then use your other tail to attach it. Now for bigger stuffed animals, I will tell you, I usually like flatten out my end. I am not going to do that. If you I don't know if I did it on the sitting angel, but on this one I'm not going to do that. And what I mean is I usually go around and make a flat end where I'm going to attach it. But this one I'm just doing it this way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the toe, or the foot part, not the toe, but the foot. So you want to do it opposite of where your tail is, and you're going to come up 7 rows from the end. So 7 rows from the end is approximately where I went ahead. And again, we're going to put a cinch line in there just like we did for the neck, just like we did to close the bottom of the Grumpy Christmas Elf. We're going to put a cinch line. So, 2 bars, skip 2 bars, 2 bars, skip 2 bars. You're going to do that all the way around. You can see there I'm trying to figure out, is that the right row? And you could count from the bottom again if you're really concerned about it. But really for this part, you just want to, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to cinch it. And you'll see when I'm doing this, this will give us, it'll cinch it up, but it won't make it super tight when I go ahead and tie this. So we're going to have to wrap it around and then knot it to get a really good tight cinch on this. So you'll see here as I go through and I tighten it up, you can kind of see the stitches. You want to make it tighter than that. So don't tie in your little end there like I almost did, but wrap it around and go ahead and knot it and then get rid of your tails because you're not going to need those tails. But that's how the foot's going to look. And you don't have to do that step. If you don't like the little footy foot like that, you could just leave the legs straight. You could do that. But I kind of thought it was cute to give it a little foot. So we gave it a little foot. So there we go. There's your foot. There's your leg. You're going to do your other one just the same exact way. So we're going to do the arms now. And the arms are going to be really the same kind of concept as the legs. So you're going to roll them just like, like the little cigar or tube-like, pill-like shape. And you're going to want to mattress stitch. And what I did is I'm going to mattress stitch from each end. So I'm going to use the green yarn and mattress stitch in the hand part to the red part and stop. And then I'm going to take the red side and mattress stitch into the green part and then stop. So once you get the green part all done and cinched, you're going to go ahead and do the red part. So leave your tail sticking out. I didn't knot it off yet on that green part. So leave your tail sticking out on the green part. And then you're going to mattress stitch to the green. Now, if you want here, you can use stitch markers so that you can see which rows you used of the green so you can follow those same rows because it's really easy for it to get kind of twisted. But really, you're going to put these underneath. So those seams are going to be facing down. So if they look a little wonky, do not worry about it. It is going to be hidden when you stitch the arms on because you'll go seam down when you stitch them on. But if you want to, grab yourself some stitch markers, and I probably should have said that in the beginning that you need those, but it's really optional if you feel like you do or not. So go ahead and do that mattress stitch again, picking up the bars in the center of the stitches all the way down till you get to the green, and then you're going to cinch it up. Cinchy, 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 cinchy. Get it all cinched. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tie the red and green together to knot them up. So go ahead and tie those colors together. You can see I have a little dot of green there in my red. I'm going to show you a little trick here that kind of covers that up. But go ahead and tie those up. And I just do, a snug knot first one, tighter knot second one. And again, you can see it'll cinch from both sides if you're not careful. So just kind of be mindful of that when you're knotting it, to not cinch it too tightly or it will kind of curl the arm. And you could kind of have it a little more curled. That's totally fine. But you don't want it too curled. So now you're going to get rid of your green yarn. So you're going to tuck that tail into the green hand and get rid of it. So hide that tail in the green hand. And then the red one is what we're going to actually use to attach the arm. So I've got a little tip here for you for that since it's in the middle right now. So get rid of your green. Yeah, be careful because all your tails kind of get in the way, and then it's easy to like knot stuff into each other and have a mess. And I only know because I've done it like a million times where I've knotted something in that I didn't really intend to. Okay, so now we're going to take the red, and this time, look, you can snip off the green, but I haven't done that yet. I haven't snipped it. Okay, so we're going to take the red, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go kind of like, see, I'm going to go right underneath where that green little speck is, and then I'm going to go all the way up to the top in the center and pull that out like whoop, and there we go. There you go. And voila, you're going to use that red to attach it to the body. So there we got our arm. We just need to trim off our green little taily on the hand there. And then you're going to do the same thing on your second arm. Okay, now we got our 2 arms done, we got our 2 legs done, we got our body done. Let's move on to the cuffs. So now the cuffs. The cuffs are going to just slide over your little green hands right on that seam where the green and the red meet. And then what I did was pulled the arm around so that the tails of the cuff line up with the seam on the bottom. So you have all of your seams on the bottom. I just think it looks a little more tidier. And then you're going to cinch it up and adjust the cuff to where you like it. You can cinch it tighter, leave it a little looser. However you want to do it is totally up to you. I just thought it was really cute. Kind of gives it a cute little sweatery look. Little festive cuff. So now I am going to stitch this in place. So I just grab one of those tails after I've cinched it down, and I'm going to go into the hole of a stitch and just kind of dig deep into the arm. So you're actually attaching it to the arm. So dig deep into the arm and then come out the inside of another stitch. And then you just kind of pull lightly. Do not pull too tight or it'll cinch up all crazy. So you just kind of want to pull lightly. And then I'm going to go right down into another stitch beside where I came out. Not the same hole, obviously, but just close to where I came out, down into another stitch. You're not going to see this at all. It's going to be hidden in the white. And see, you can just come out wherever, just to kind of tack this down. Just so it won't, it won't pull off, so it's in there. And if it does cinch a little bit too much, you can see there I use my needle to kind of pull up on the cinched part, loosen it up just a little bit. So we're just going around, and we're going to do that with this tail until we get out the back. And then you're going to do the same thing with the second tail all the way around, and then come out on your last stitch, come out this real close to where that first tail is, and then you'll be able to knot these together and then tuck those tails. And now that's secured down. And you can secure this down, as tightly as you want to. I just did a few, tacking stitches with each of the tails around the arm just to hold it down. And I think that's probably enough, but it's up to you. It depends on what you're going to be doing with it, if it's decorative and you can see how the arm, look at how cute it is. It's so stinking cute. So you're going to do the second one as well. So now we're moving on to the sweater. And here's where I didn't, I should have cut these tails a little longer, and I'll show you. You'll see it in here. See how that one little red one and white one are popping out? If they were a little longer, it'd be easier to tuck them. But again, I put the seams of this sweater where my cinch lines are. I try to put them in the back where the neck is, so they're on the back side and not the front side of the sweater. And tuck your little tails red to red, white to white. If they were a little longer, they would have tucked a little better. And I put the looser and the looser looking end at the bottom. I just think it looks a little nicer. And I didn't tuck my tails on my head yet, so you're going to want to go ahead and do that if you didn't already do it. So that's what I'm going to do here before I go ahead and get the sweater tacked down. So tucking my tails into the head and then giving them a little snippy with the scissors, and then we'll move on to getting the sweater adjusted and tacked down. So right here, I just snug it up too. So you're just going to go through and cinch that until you get it where you like it. And then now I'm just going to go around in the same way that I did the cuff. I'm going to go around the bottom layer of the sweater, or the bottom cuff of the sweater, the little whitey stuff. And you're going to dig into the green so that it's stitched down. And you can see I'm just kind of snugging it. I'm not pulling it super tight, just snug. Go in a hole, come out a hole. And honestly, you cannot see this. Once you get it done, it just kind of hides itself within the other stitches. And it looks really stinking cute, by the way. And you wouldn't have to do this, but what's going to happen is the sweater's then it can roll up. So if you wouldn't have to do it to the top if you didn't want to, but I would definitely do it to the bottom. So you're going to go all the way around until you can go ahead and just knot it off and then tuck that tail. And then you want to do the same thing up there on the top with the white one as well. And get it all tucked down. And there, it's so cute. It's cute. It's coming together. And don't be afraid. It's gonna get lumpy and bumpy when you're going, and you can adjust like the stuffing on the head and stuff. So now we're gonna move on to the face. This is where people might get intimidated. Do not get intimidated. I'm using the long needle for this though, guys. So if you have one, it works a lot better. So I'm coming up from the back with my brown yarn. I figured out kind of where I want the eyebrows to be. So just kind of figure that out. So I come in through the back and then I put it out where the center or to the center of the head where I want the eyebrow to be. And then I'm about 4 stitches from that eyebrow up at an angle. I'm going to use my smaller needle and I'm going to scoop around and come out. Do not knot this. You can see if I pulled right now, I'd make a knot. Don't do that. Get underneath that tail there. Get underneath that. Okay, so you're going to go real kind of gentle. So you got your first little brow. You could just do 2, but I did 3 on mine. I wanted them to be a little thicker. So I wrapped it around 2 times. And then on my 3rd time, instead of wrapping it around like that, I am going to grab my longer needle. And you can just adjust it. Like here, I kind of adjusted it. I'm going to grab my longer needle. And here's a little tippers. Tippers. And you're going to go back down that hole and you're going to come out the same exact hole you went in. This sometimes takes a little bit of work and a little bit of adjusting and finagling and all the things, but you want to come out the exact same hole without any of the yarn in between them if you can help it. And you go ahead and snug it up. Just be careful not to pull too tight or you'll make him look like he has a facelift. But there you go. Yeah, he's looking kind of like grumpy and mean and not very nice, right? So you want to do the same thing on the other side. You could put little pins. So there we go. We got 2 of them. And the other thing I did not show here is I did white around the eyes. I don't think I showed that. I'll talk about that after I get the brown done here. But for the face, you just kind of figure out what you want. You know, figure out your length. And I did this one a little different than I did on the first one. I wanted to see what it would look like. And you come in through the back of the head. I always come in through the back of the head when I'm starting and figure out where you want. But you want to start at the bottom of the mouth in the middle. Bottom of the mouth in the middle. Bottom of the mouth in the middle. And I'm just figuring out where exactly I want it to go. And then you come from the back to the front. Move the hat out of the way there, Sherry. And you pull out and you can hang on to your one tail so it doesn't, just be mindful of all your other tails too. I haven't tucked anything yet. So now I pull that big needle out. You want to use that for this. We're going to put on a smaller needle. And again, the bent needle works the best for this. So you're going to go ahead and put that on and go up to where you want to do it. And I made the nose a little bit bigger on this one this time, but you're going to go right up to where you want it to be. You're going to poke your needle in and then go out to the side. So poke your needle and go out to the side and hang with me here because this really does work. And then, pull it kind of snug and then cross over to where you want it to go out the other side. See right there? We're going to go right there. I'm going to use my longer needle for that though. Now I want to tell you really quick, I did the white on the sides of the eyes. Can you see that? Because I didn't show that. And this is just a little like highlight if you want to do it. I just do the same thing like I'm doing with all of these. I came in through the back, then came out the same hole on the other side, just where I wanted it to be. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, you can always ask me and I'll explain that again. But, you know, I came in up at the top of the eye, or from the back to the top of the eye, and then I went around the eye to where I wanted it at the bottom, and then I went back in with my long needle and came out that same hole, just like I did with the eyebrows and also like the face here. Then you can kind of snug it up and adjust it however you want, and there you go. You got a grumpy little dude. Grumpy little dude, grumpy little dude. Okay, so now you have this mess on the back. So the reason I said that you need to have these coming out the same hole, look and make sure there's no green in between them, no green. Because you're going to want to knot these up and then tuck them. And if there's green in between, then what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to pull the knots into the head. So if there is, just make sure you use a needle and get both of those on the same side of like a stitch so that they're both coming out the same hole. So the first one, do it very lightly, very lightly. Do not do it too tight or you'll pull all your stuff, like you'll mess up your face, and you don't want to mess your face up. Don't want to have a messed up face. Okay, I'm going to trim that off a little bit because that's too much to tuck in. But you're going to, with that knot made there, you're going to grab those tails. And again, I use this little bent little dude here, needle, needle, needle. He's my favorite guy. My favorite guy. And you're going to go back in the same hole, guys. You're going to go pull that up just a little bit. You don't want to mess with your face too much. Pull it up just a little bit. Go in the same hole. Come out the side. Okay, watch this. You're going to pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, boop. And it goes away, and then you just pull up on it. Boop! It makes a little pop, and then you use your needle to pull up, and then it disappears into the head. You trim that off. You're going to do that with all the other tails. All the other tails. And see how it's brown there? Just take your needle, boop! It pops it right in. And that's how you do it. So do all the rest of them there. So you can see the difference with the first one to the second one. This one looks a little older, a little meaner than the first one with that longer nose. So you can do a shorter nose with the eyes closer together if you want it to look a little younger. Farther apart, bigger nose makes it look a little older. So yeah, there they are. There's the two. So now we get to put on the limbs. So the first thing we're going to do is put on the arms. That's the next step that I think is good, is to put on the arms. Now, you can do this many ways. I like to figure out where I want them first before I start stitching them. And again, they're not going to be permanently staying there, and I'm going to adjust it as I go. But this just kind of gives me an eyeball to figuring out like where I want them to be. So you can see I'm using these plastic little needles, the long one and the short one. If I had two shorter ones here, it probably would have worked a little bit better. But this kind of gives me an idea of where I want them. Like if I want them more forward, more back, you know, that kind of thing. And just kind of adjust it. Figure out what, you know, the thing that you like and how it looks the best to you. But I kind of like it like that. I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to start with the one there with the blue needle. So I'm going to thread my other bent needle because that's the one I use. And now I'll tell you, when I first started, this is the part that, aside from the face, this part like made me nervous, but now I don't worry about it too much. And it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. It just has to be attached. So I dig down into all the way through the layers. Dig through the layers. Get a couple stitches. See that? Couple stitches all the way through the layers, because then it's going to be connected way stronger, and you're not going to be pulling on the outside layer. So it's connected to the arm. We dig through 2 layers, just a couple stitches, and you're going to do the same thing. Couple stitches. Go through a couple stitches, try to dig deep into the arm too, so it's not just the outside. And it's just like a mattress stitch. We're going to keep going in the same direction. I'm not whip stitching it. I am mattress stitching it. So a couple stitches into the body again, and a couple stitches into the arm. And I'm just kind of pinching it, you know, with my thumb, or I was when I first started, to kind of hold it in place. It's a little awkward. I'm not going to lie. It's a little awkward when you're first getting started figuring all this out, but it's not hard. And if you don't like it, you can always take it off. You can always take it off and redo it. Okay, so now I'm going to take that needle out. I got a couple stitches in there holding it. If you pull it or snug it up, that's going to hold it pretty darn good, believe it or not. Pretty darn well. So then now we're going to flip it over. We got those 2, you know, those couple stitches there. Flip it over. We're going to kind of do it at the shoulder, and then I'm going to do it on the bottom. I'm going to have to take that one off because my needle was in the way, and then we'll just have to adjust it again and get it set for the second time. But now I'm going to do a couple stitches. You can see I come up just a little higher when I'm doing this. And you could probably even come up just a little higher than that if you want it to be more snugly sewn to the body. So I just come up just a little bit higher, and I go deep into the arm. I don't just do just a few stitches on the top, and then I go through the body, and I'm going to work all the way around that arm. And I'm kind of looking at it and adjusting it as I go, because you can adjust the arm's position a little bit as you're putting it down. And I really like how that turned out. I'm going to do like one more, I think I just do one more stitch here and then knot it off. And you just knot it off like you would anything else. And then we're going to tuck the stitch. But I usually, or tuck the tail. I usually tuck it all the way and pull it through the opposite side and give it a really good snug. But you're going to want to snug this mattress stitch as you go. Like just keep snugging it up as you go. And the other thing is too, let's say I didn't, I wanted to move it around just a little bit more. You could put your yarn through and just, just do some more stitches until you get it exactly the way that you like it. So now we'll knot it off. We will tuck it through to the other side. Tuck it through to the other side. Yeah, that's what we're doing, I think. I think that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Boop, 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 boop. And then go ahead and snip that tail off. But there you go. You got one arm done. And then you're going to do it the exact same way on the other side. So again, now I'm using my blue needle because that just worked a little bit better for when I was trying to like get it set. And you can see here I have to, like, once I do that, I can kind of eyeball it like where I want it to be. It just works really well. And get it in there, and everything's not going to be exactly the same size. So it's going to be just a little, it's not going to be perfect, but it is, you can get it real close to being the same. I sometimes will look at the top of the head too, to like adjust where the arms sit, or look at the back like here and where they sit. And to figure out exactly how I want them to be. So once you have the arms on, so you're going to attach that, we're going to go for the legs. Now I'll tell you, like this one I had the legs, you can put them a little farther apart so it sits up, or you can put them a little closer together. The closer they are together, the greater chance it'll fall over when it's sitting down. So, but it's up to you. It's whatever look you like better. So I figure out where the center of the body is, or close to it. Use, one of your needles. You could use a stitch marker and figure out exactly where center is and put a little marker there. It just helps as you're working on putting the legs on. Because in the past, when I've done stuff, if I don't kind of have an eyeball for center, I might put one on and then I kind of misshapen the thing as I'm putting it on, and it gets out of form. And then I put the other one on and it's a little wonky. So, so if you use that center marker, then you can kind of figure out, do I want like 2 rows and then I start stitching, or 3 rows and then I start stitching? Which look do I like the best? But then I try to get them as close to even as possible. But again, it's not perfect. It's going to be what it is, kind of. So then you can use another needle if you want and kind of square it up and see, is that a good spot? Like, where do I want to be? How far back do I want to be? And you could use stitch markers to attach them. So you can put them on the corners of your legs and actually attach them to the body and start your stitches. After you get a couple stitches in, it will hold it, and then you can work on getting it attached. Because just getting those first initial stitches sometimes is a little more difficult. So I use the needle to kind of as guides to figure out where I wanted it, and then I just kind of squeeze it down and start stitching. And again, you're going to do that mattress stitch just like you did the arm, just like you did, closing up the arms and the legs. But you're going to want to go deep into the body, grab some stitches, and then go ahead and go into the leg, grab some stitches. And I do it just a little bit up from the end, not right at the end, but a little bit up from the end, always going in the same direction. That way when you snug it, it just snugs up real nice and tight. I have to move that out of the way because I'm going to actually be stitching in that same exact spot. So you just want to just adjust it to where you want it. And just position it where it's easiest for you, because sometimes it's a little more difficult. So you're going to keep going in the same direction, and then you're going to work all the way around in a circle, going in the same direction. So you do the bottom first and then the top. And then you're going to do the same thing on the second one. And then I go all the way around, and I usually do my ends or tie off stuff on the bottom of the stuffed animal. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to knot it off here. I grab a couple stitches, make a knot, and then I'm going to tuck my tails. So that's how I do it. And you could do 1 or 2 knots here when you're cinching it up, you know, whatever you feel is best for you. I think I did a couple and then I tuck them. And then I think the last thing I need to do here is I did not close up the bottom completely. So we need to close up his little bottom. You can see it's a little open. So, so you're going to want to maybe get your needle again, not maybe, but you will. And then I go around the opening and I just, well, actually I go across. So I think that's what I did here. I go directly across from where my tails are and come up, and then I do it side to side. So go across and almost like you're making an, oh, I don't want to say an X. What I want to say, you're making a line up and then a line across. So I hope that makes sense. And then sometimes I'll go in, if that doesn't, once I snug that up, if that doesn't make it tight enough, then I will put another cinch line in, but it looks pretty good there. So you can tie it off and then tuck your tails, and there, voila, we have ourselves a grumpy Christmas elf. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure you're in our Crank Knit community over on Facebook and share what you made.